Hey everybody, and welcome back to Threat X3 Productions. And today we are going to be talking about our most anticipated games. Here with me, or I'm Nick, and here with me is
Nate, who's always here too. We're always here together, guys.
it's Nick and Nate, Nick and Nate. It's always great with Nick and Nate. Bar, 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 bar.
Fun fact:
All
I can
right.
only snap with one finger.
So most anticipated of 2020. We're starting with games today, and then we're also going to have another separate video for movies. So make sure to check that out. Give us these clickety clicks. Or you might even be listening us on the TX3 Cast. That's where you can get the audio versions of all our videos. So if you like listening to us, but you don't like our video editor, then you can just go listen there. Anyways. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and start off with honorable mentions. Can you think of any honorable mentions that you'd like to do before we make it official?
For sure, off the top of my head, I would have to say Watch Dogs Legion.
Okay. You want to play as that old woman, don't you?
Yeah, I do. No, so Watch Dogs 1 was, let's be honest, disappointing.
Yeah, sure.
It had its, but Watch Dogs 2 comes out and it's phenomenal from start to finish. It's one of those that it was like with Red Dead Redemption, I really got immersed into that world. Like I was like, okay, I'm a hacker. I'm not going to kill anybody, so I'm going to use non-lethals all the time. And so like I really got into it. And so they kind of can really only go up from here, but what I'm worried about is the scale of this game. Them talking about how it's like, hey, you can literally play anybody, any AI character. And so it's one of those that Ubisoft has a track record of being ambitious and it paying off, and they also have a track record of the exact opposite.
Right,
so,
Watch Dogs being the perfect example of that.
Correct, yeah. So it's one of those that it really has, this is a 50-50. It's got a great chance. I would say it's got a good chance of being really great and a good chance of being really not so great.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say my honorable mention, and it's honorable in the sense that I don't have a VR, so I won't be able to get it, or at least I don't want to spend that much on a VR. But Half-Life Alyx. As a 90s kid or whatever, I can say Half-Life is probably one of the best games of all time, and Half-Life 2 just followed it up and, basically being set up for Episode 3 and then never, ever getting it. Like, this is hopefully them teasing us like, hey, we're going to bring Half-Life 3. It's going to happen. I really hope that is the case. And so, I mean, if I'm at all able to, like, if I have to go to somebody's house or whatever, I'm going to play this. But the reason it has to be honorable rather than the most anticipated is because there's a reason there's a chance that I might not be able to. So,
yeah, and this is one of those that when I first saw this, I was like, wow, Half-Life is making history again by, them in the past with Half-Life 1 and 2 going through all the way up to, hey, the new Half-Life 3 is a VR game. And it looks like it's going to be the best VR game that we've seen so far, like in terms of what they're trying to do. So, yeah, I'm the same way as you. I would love to play this, but I don't have the money on a VR, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to it.
Definitely. All right, so let's get into the official list of the most anticipated 2020. Starting off with Final Fantasy VII. Now, do you have any personal attachment to like the Final Fantasy series at all?
Zero. I think I played like one of them on an early PS1 or even before that at
so
like
then just like
house.
tangentially, knowing that like Final Fantasy VII is one of the best games of all time, like does this intrigue you to be able to like replay it, so to speak, but not having to put up with all the like active time, turn-based kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. The turn-based stuff I don't actually mind. This is such a weird thing. Like, I know they're basically the same game, but I liked playing like Kingdom Hearts, and I know that was a little bit more action than active time battle. But I remember there were parts, at least in the first one, where it was situations. It was like something I wasn't used to. It wasn't just like a hack and slash kind of game.
Gotcha.
So yes, I actually have the same feeling with Final Fantasy VII that I do with Resident Evil 2 from last year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because like both of those are like games I've wanted to play before, but did not want to play the original versions.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
them being complete remakes is like, oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah. So as somebody who's played the first one, as somebody who has just a attachment to it, who has that nostalgia for it, I would have to say there's probably a camp out there of people who just don't want this to exist. They want their, they want their original game just to be preserved or something like that. But I'm definitely in the camp that, like, I'm excited because the number one thing about revisiting something like that is having to revisit that old, system. Nowadays, and it might be this whole generation that we're in and instant gratification and everything, but I don't really like turn-based RPGs. And if they are turn-based, I'd rather it be something like XCOM, where it's more like I'm playing chess than I am straight up, turn-based, And so that's definitely one thing that I'm super excited about, that I get to kind of revisit this thing. And Resident Evil, honestly, is the perfect example of how to do it and how to do it right. And so far, what I've seen from it, it kind of seems like we are going to have another Resident Evil 2 on our hands, in the sense that we're going to get something that keeps the spirit alive, keeps the overall aesthetic and the overall feel of the game, but now we're looking at it in a modern lens. We're looking at it in a modern play style, and that I could not be more hyped for. So definitely, like, one of the things at the very top of my list.
Yeah, and it's one of those that I think the excitement of everybody else will get me excited for it to at least try it. So it's something I'm definitely not going to rule out by any means. It just will determine on how I get through my backlog or the other games that are coming up. So the next one on the list is Dying Light 2, which is, wow, this is one of those games that I'm excited for, but I want to know nothing about.
Yeah.
Like, I want to, kind of similar to me with Skyrim when I had no idea what I was getting into. I want to jump in and have just a completely fresh experience, not see kind of the different choices and stuff like that. Dying Light 1, I was a really big fan of, but unfortunately, because of the span of the game and kind of where I was at that time, I was like, I can't dedicate a lot of time to this just one game. Looking back on it now, more free time I have, I'm like, oh, well, that's no big deal at all. Like,
right, yeah.
But this looks to be a 100% sequel and improvement off of the first game in every sense of the word.
Yeah, I have to agree as far as, like, it looks like it's just Dying Light, but better. I think I haven't really seen that much. Granted, they haven't put out that much. I think they've probably done like a gameplay walkthrough, and I definitely skipped that because, kind of like you, I would like to kind of go in, Zero Dark 30, where I don't really know what's going on and anything like that. But one thing that I remember from the E3 presentation when it was first announced got me super hyped, and that was how your decisions are actually going to have effects. And they could have effects like on the environment itself. So I think the one example they gave was like you go down into the sewers and you can either fix a water pipe or you cannot, and then depending on that, the environment itself can change, because either the people are prosperous and they have water and it's easily accessible, or they don't, and so then it's more ragtag and stuff like that. And that's just one example, according to the developers. That's just one example of the many, many things that there's going to be a physical change. And there's so many games out there that claim that it's like, oh, we have choices. And then really the only thing that changes is maybe the way people talk to you. Whereas this is actually going to have environmental changes. And I feel like that's the funnest thing, is to see, like, what am I doing to this world? It makes you more immersed. And that's probably the same thing. The parkour, the melee, the crafting, those are all things that I'm expecting, and I'm expecting them to be better. And those are things also that I am excited for, because I just loved the original Dying Light. But for sure, the main thing is actually making choices, and those choices hopefully feeling substantial.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the setting too.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the reason why I couldn't get through the first one, because it was just like, desert drought. Like, it was cool, but it was one of those. Whereas with this looks like Victorian post-apocalyptic kind of,
Yeah, good point.
with some of the way like these settlements. It's like, oh, okay, I can dig this.
Yeah, for sure. And then, next one I would have to say is Resident Evil 3. And I'd actually have to say I'm hyped for two reasons. Because the number one being obviously Resident Evil 3 and how good Resident Evil 2 did. Like, it makes me even more excited for the potential of a Resident Evil 3 and getting Nemesis. Not only that, but seeing what they did with Mr. X gonna give it to you, but then changing that to the Nemesis, like, yes, please. Oh my God. Like, because Resident Evil 3, the original one, had specific spots where you met up with Nemesis. The idea of maybe Nemesis just being this thing that is constantly after you really intrigues me, because that was one of the most interesting changes that they made to Resident Evil 2, is having this Mr. X go and give it to you, and having him always going around, and and that sound just, when you hear that sound, like, you can't not have your heart just start to race or whatever. So that's number one. That's obviously number one reason I'm excited. And then the other, honestly, is the kind of isometric multiplayer. And I remember there were some people beforehand that, since there were rumors about Resident Evil 3, they were thinking, oh, maybe Resident Evil 3, and then the multiplayer of that is just going to be this Resident Evil Online or whatever the heck it's called or whatever. And then that's what ended up happening at the PlayStation State of Play. And so, honestly, I'm excited for this, because it's like, I like Dead by Daylight. I really like that. Really good one. The Friday the 13th game, like, I don't know if it was because I played Dead by Daylight first, but, like, once I played, like, Friday the 13th, I didn't have a personal attachment to, Jason, so, like, I just wasn't feeling it, Plus, Dead by Daylight, like, you could play as the Nightmare on Elm Street guy, Freddy Krueger. You could play as Leatherface. You could play as, so there's several different ones. Whereas, like, Jason, it's like, well, what costume would you like to wear? So that just didn't really intrigue me. So now fast forward to Resident Evil. And so now it's like, we're going to be able to play as, Mr. X. We're going to be able to play as probably Nemesis. We're going to be able to play as all these different ones. And I personally am one of the very probably few people who absolutely, positively, without a doubt, loved Evolve. I thought it was like one of the best games of that year, but there was a little bit of like balancing issues, and there was a lot of like behind the scenes and like monetization and stuff like that it just rubbed people the wrong way. But I've always liked games like that, because I would even say like the Predator game that coming out, like, I'm interested, but I don't have a personal like nostalgic for that. Whereas like Resident Evil, it's deep seated into me because of how much I love zombies and everything.
Yeah, I can't really speak much to Resident Evil 3 because I'm in the same boat as it's one of those that I didn't play growing up. So it's kind of the same thing. I will kind of, once 3 comes out, figure out which I would rather play between the two or 3. Or I might play both. I don't know. It just depends on kind of what I can do game-wise. This is kind of why I had an Xbox for something like Games Pass, to where if it's both on there, I can try both. Like, they wouldn't come for a while, that I understand,
right.
But,
Yeah, totally. Another kind of multiplayer one that I'm really excited for, which granted it's already on the Xbox, it's already on the PC, bite me, but I'm super excited for Hunt Showdown. Do you know what that is, Nate?
Yes, that's the funny thing is I've known about Hunt Showdown for a while, but I never played it, and I was just watching some gameplay because about it coming to PS4, which is why we're excited for it. And I'm like, oh my God, this looks cool. Yeah. This looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm super excited. This is definitely one I was following even back when it was just called Hunt, and it was like Legends or Shadows of the blah blah, and instead of it being like a battle royale, it was more of a like Left 4 Dead type of game where like you still went and hunt down things, but there was a lot of other things. So then they took that and they added it to a battle royale kind of formula, and I actually really, really, really dig it. I've been following this for a while now. And being a PlayStation person, like, my laptop essentially is just an editing device. It's not good enough to handle it. And so it's never been an option for me to even play it. So now that it's going to be an option for me, I could not be more excited. Because the number one thing about Battle Royale is that they always seem to be almost the exact same. So finding a way that is so unique and so interesting, making it PvE, PvP at the same time, and, you know, adding in hunting and adding in permadeath. Like, when you get killed, you're dead. And so if you have like a lot of loot on a character, you lose that entire loot and you have to build that character up again. So you have this attachment to them. You know, so it's no longer about running and gunning all the time, because if you die, you're dead. And like, that is another like layer that makes me go, okay, I feel like in general people will play this differently. You know, you're going to have your hotheads out there for sure, but it's like people will definitely play this differently when it comes to the fact that when you die, you have this really cool like prestige weapon, and you die, like, you just screwed yourself because you weren't being careful enough, you weren't being smart enough. And that little factor of adding something like permadeath makes it even more intriguing, because it's like, okay, you know, like, it's just going to be played differently. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, and you add the fact that with the PS4 release, they're adding a solo PvE mode, so it's not multiplayer at all on there, and that they're planning on having crossplay with Xbox this year as well, is really,
definitely
recipe for a good time.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if I'm the only, I think I might be the only one here, which is surprising because everyone else is. Next game on our list is Cyberpunk 2077. Mm-hmm. Now, full transparency, have not played any CD Projekt Red game, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, none of them whatsoever. So this, kind of like I said with Final Fantasy 7, or Dying Light 2, is this I am anticipating being like Skyrim. I never played an Elder Scrolls game before. I'm jumping in. I know it's completely different, but I'm hoping to just get immersed in this world and have that. It's portrayed as kind of one of those cyber fantasy kind of things, like wash away from your real world, and that's what makes me really excited about it, as well as, of course, Keanu Reeves.
Right. You can't go. I mean, you're breathtaking. Anyways, yeah, I wouldn't say you're the only one. I am definitely interested. I am definitely going to check it out. But as far as like at the top of my list, it's definitely not. And that's no other reason than it's just like, you know, it looks like a really cool game, but like I'm not super into really long single players anymore. I feel like in my older age, it's like I got less time on me, you know.
Right.
So it's like I want things to be, you know, fast and chaotic, kind of like Doom Eternal.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hyped. So far I like everything about it. I haven't really seen anything that sticks out or whatever. In general, it's definitely kind of like Dying Light, where like I don't want to watch that much on it. Like I'll watch the trailers for sure, but I won't watch, like, if there's a 20-minute playthrough out there, I don't want to watch it, because it's like, I mean, one, you've already sold me just saying there's another Doom. You know, Doom 2016 was like one of the games of the year, and like I don't need to be convinced. I don't need to know that it exists. All I need to know is that it exists, and I'm ready to go. Because just the fact that they're going to be adding more to it and everything, that's enough for me to just be hyped.
Yeah, I can agree with that. However, did you see the most recent trailer that came out? That got me the most hyped out of anything, to be honest with you. Like, one of the things, I played Doom really, really late. I played it last year. That was the first time I played it. And I was, like, of course I love the action of the game, but I really loved the lore. Like, I liked how lore heavy the first one was. You know, in some ways, in certain parts. So seeing that and them expand on that more, and like actually having a backstory for the Doomslayer and like this lineage of it's kind of one of those, historically, it's like, oh, okay, That's getting me really excited.
That's hot.
And then that's hot. And then I can't wait to use that chain, that like grappling.
Oh,
hook
with
chain.
the dual barrel shotgun.
And, like,
yeah.
Oh man, let's go. Let's go
for sure. Yeah. Another one, Marvel. I feel like for a lot of people, they were kind of apprehensive about like, oh, it's just going to be a single player thing. And then wait, it's a shared world and yada, yada. But from what I'm hearing about is that it's more of a like, it's more along the lines of it does kind of feel something like a Destiny or something like that. And I'm like, okay, you know, I think one of the things about Destiny is that you eventually get attached to your character and everything. You kind of, you can dig into the lore or whatever. Having a game like Destiny, but I already know all the lore. I already have that personal attachment to them. I feel like it's going to make it even better because it's like I already have that attachment. I don't need to get attached to my character over the set of, you know, blah, blah levels or something. I'm already attached. I'm already attached to Bruce and, you know, Tony and everything. Like, I'm already there. And so now putting that in this world that honestly kind of looks like the combat almost kind of reminds me of like God of War, but now I'm the freaking Hulk. Like, sign me up.
Yeah, they really did botch the messaging of this when they first showed it, kind of when they first showed it in general. But I think with more word of mouth and more like, you know, clips, like it to me, it does sound like a good time to have a Destiny type game where you can have your specific character be your character, how they look, how the armor is, like what their appearance is, but that still be a character that you know and love. That sounds really cool. The biggest thing that they'll have to get past still, I think, is a comparison with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
PS4.
yeah, true.
Because Spider-Man PS4 is a phenomenal game, but what I think they really have to nail is that these are two completely different games.
I mean, either way, pretty cool.
So, kind of like with Nick talking about Resident Evil 3. It was either that or Dying Light 2, talking about actually making you want to get it. That's how Halo Infinite is to me. Halo Infinite is a game that, depending on what it is, on how it looks...
Oh, sorry. Were you talking?
I might pick up an Xbox Series X for this game.
Wait, is that X going to give it to you too? How many X's are going to be giving it to us?
Multiple X's. But no, like from what little they've shown of Halo Infinite and kind of all the news I've heard about it, it sounds like a really special new Halo experience. Now, also, again, full transparency, I'm a sucker completely for Halo. Completely. This is from the same person who Halo 5 had a special edition that was coming out, and they were like, hey, we're not going to tell you what it is. It's $250 here. You want to pre-order it? And I said, sure.
Well, sure.
And so,
let me just suck your right off.
They ended up showing it off, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I bought it, and literally a month later, it was $99. So yeah, like I said, I buy into Halo really heavily. So
literally,
this game, I really, really hope. Literally, yeah. I really hope this game is as good as I hope it is.
You know, the only thing I can say about it is that it's going to exist. It's going to come out next year, and I will look at it.
Yep, that's about all I can expect.
But you know what game I'm going to do more than look at? The one that I'm probably the most excited for. The one that I created an entire podcast series in the anticipation of, which if you don't know, Naughty Dog Ranked. We're ranking all the Naughty Dog games. Go check it out. We've already gotten through all the Crash Bandicoots, and we're just about to start with Jack. And we're going to be ending it with The Last of Us Part 2. My God. I cannot explain just how hyped I am. Like, this is definitely the year that I am excited for. This is the number one. This is like the only one. If I could only purchase one game in the entire year, The Last of Us would win hands down. Which is funny because I literally just talked about how I don't normally like long single player things, but this is just so different because it's Naughty Dog. It's freaking Naughty Dog. And like, I just, putting the story aside, I'm just so ready to revisit that world. You know, Ellie and Joel, like, finalized that for me for sure, but it's the world. I love the idea of having a sort of zombie apocalypse, but putting this new fresh twist where I don't feel like they're just zombies. I feel like it's a brand new experience, and I cannot wait.
Well, I think they're doing something that's interesting, like Dying Light is. I feel like they're focusing less on zombies and more on humans, which I think is a really cool concept because they're almost scarier.
Yes.
Anytime I'm playing a zombie game and I have to deal with humans, it's scarier than dealing with the actual zombies. So, yeah, man, this is one of those that I got excited for this again recently in a really odd, strange way. I had a buddy at work. I told him to play. He's like, "You've got to play The Last of Us." He just got a PlayStation.
Wow,
And I told him, I was like, now, it might get a little rough. He's got a daughter.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it might get a little rough. I'm just going to warn you. He told me the other day that he started it, played through the first mission, and then had to put it down because he was crying so hard. He's like, I don't know if I could pick it back up. And I was like, well, that weirdly got me excited for the sequel. So, yeah, this is one of those that at this moment probably will be my game of the year, but based on some of the other ones at least we've talked about, we'll have to see. We'll honestly have to see.
I'd be more surprised if it wasn't my game of the year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, it just, like, every game is going to be compared to that, you know, because, I mean, it's just, Last of Us is like my game of the century, you know, so it's going to be hard to just like top that, obviously, for Last of Us Part 2, but then just Last of Us Part 2 being what it is, it's going to be hard for any game to really top that, so. For sure.
Yeah, I can agree. This is definitely one of those that's this game of the year conversation is going to be huge one.
So, I mean, that's what we're most anticipating in 2020. We will obviously want to know, we want to hear from you guys. What are you most anticipating? What have we left out, you know, or why are you excited about the same things we're excited about? Whatever you want to do, comment down below and make sure to go to our Twitter at TX3 Productions. If you'd like to just listen to the audio version of this, you can go to ThreadX3Cast. I was Nick.
And I was Nate.
And